I think many of you know this feeling of excitement and having to face the unknown before traveling to a country you've never been to before, but one you've read a lot about and that has always attracted you. And if you take into account that this would be the most remote country you've ever set off to on your own, I guess you can understand what I felt before facing New Zealand.
Thank you so much.
Now I want to tell you about today's sponsor, which is Blinkist. Blinkist is a really cool app that helps you read and listen more books. Let's say you read 5 or 10 or 15 books per year. With the Blinkist, you can increase this number to dozens or even hundreds books per year. Interesting? I will tell you more. Blinkist is an app that allows you to understand key concepts from over 5,500 non-fiction books and podcasts. In Blinkist, you can read and listen to the most important of the best-selling non-fiction books. Also, you can get the heart of popular podcasts in 15 minutes with shortcasts, what I actually started doing recently while I'm about to start work. No need to waste time searching. Blinkist will show you a perfectly curated selection of books and podcasts on topics that interest you. In my case, it's history. You can choose topic that interests you. For example, genetic. A brief history of everyone who ever lived is really worth learning about. So, if every year you promise yourself to devote more time to self-education and to read more books, this is actually a perfect moment to actually start do it using Blinkist. Get 25% off Blinkist Premium and enjoy 2 membership for the price of 1. Start your free 7-day trial by clicking here. Now, I want to tell you about my team. This car has seen it all. The thing is that New Zealand is made up of 2 pretty big islands, North and South. My task is to visit both of them, going southward. Yep, there is a ferry between them. The problem is that I only have 8 days, and whether I'll manage to see and film everything alone a 2,000-kilometer road trip having only 8 days is a great question. But as always, life is boring without some trouble. Okay guys, for the next week and a half, you'll join me on doing something I absolutely love. Specifically, a road trip across a new country, filming everything my camera can capture. And there is a lot to capture. A third of New Zealand consists of national parks, and that can only mean that this place must be drop-dead stunning. Oh, and there are no snakes unlike in Australia, which is a big advantage for me. Secondly, it's the last land that ever got populated, which happened only 1,000 years ago. It means that the most of the country still remains untouched. That means you can get a taste of wild nature that's hardly being changed or damaged by human activity, which is incredibly rare nowadays, my dear friends. But just before we get stunned by the beautiful local sights, let's go over the possible difficulties you might encounter when planning your first visit to New Zealand. Firstly, it's the location, as New Zealand is in the middle of nowhere. And if you look at the map, you'll find New Zealand right at the edge of it. To get you to understand how far it is, until recently, the longest direct flight in the world was between Doha in Qatar to Auckland in New Zealand, amounting up to 14,000 kilometers and nearly 18 hours of flying. 18 hours, that's crazy. Another issue apart from the flight price is unbearable jet lag. The time difference between Kyiv and New Zealand is 11 hours, making it nearly impossible to prepare for it. Only Hawaii with a 12-hour time difference is worse. That's why I am literally dying right now. One more difficulty you might have already noticed is that in New Zealand people drive on the left side, which may cause you to steer clear of renting a car, but frankly speaking, it's not a big problem. All in all, you need 20, maybe 30 minutes to get used to the steering wheel on the right side, and then you just stop noticing that you're driving on other side. So, the intro is done, let's shift to the beauty of this land. Cows, more cows, corn, lots of corn, and that's about it for now. Yep, you won't be blinded by the abundance of beauty right after leaving Auckland, and the scenery seems to be pretty typical. Places like Iceland, for example, are incredibly beautiful from the get-go. You just walk out of the airport and don't even have to go anywhere. But here in New Zealand, you just arrive and see typical roads and towns. The sights are quite common to us. It's clean and tidy, but nothing can wow you to the bottom of your heart. But we'll wait. While we're driving, let me tell you what makes New Zealand popular. Firstly, it's the kiwi, and right now you're looking at a plantation of it. This name, though, is also shared with the national symbol of New Zealand, the kiwi bird. It's small and cute. New Zealand is also home to vineyards, but we'll talk about the local wine later when we are on South Island. New Zealand is an extremely green country, both literally and figuratively. Locals strive to the country to be recognized as the greenest in the world, while local cattle seem majestic and well respected while munching grass on elite fields. Besides, not only cows and sheep are bred here, but also deer. You just drive and see a massive deer herd on your left. New Zealand became the first country in the world to impose a carbon tax. Of course, alternative energy is also thriving here. The locals are absolutely focused on keeping their country on its original pure state. This was the first time I was asked if I carry a tent that was recently set up in another country while getting a visa. In terms of rubbish and recycling, everything is also great. Tissues are from recycled material, you get free coffee if you bring your cup, while grocery bags come in paper and fabric variants. And you won't believe it, but people do actually use them. There are plastic bags too, but they are labeled as a multi-use. This whole movement made me want to be a part of it, so I also went and bought a local bag. And you know what? It's still with me. Local grocery shops are packed with organic fruits and vegetables. Organic potatoes, blueberries, pears, and of course organic chicken. New Zealand really makes an impression of a very eco-friendly country. Still, let's be honest, New Zealand is known not for being eco-friendly, but for a very famous movie. Of course, it's a Lord of the Rings. That's how many of us know about New Zealand. The Lord of the Rings became a true part of New Zealand heritage. Nearly every shop sells a guidebook that can take you to most scenes from the film. In total, the trilogy brought around $200 million to the country, while the government appointed a Minister of the Rings, responsible for finding ways to get as much profit as possible from the film. At the same time, New Zealand's treasury issued $1 coins with a picture of that very ring. The central location tied to the film is a Hobbiton, a real film set located 2 hours away from Auckland, which became my first destination. It's a place that will make film fans bounce off the walls as it's packed to the brink with film props. What's interesting is that Hobbiton is an operating farm with tractors and cows, and that's why all tourists get moved around on specialized buses. The landscape is pretty standard though, and reminds me of a New Zealand-ish Tuscany. This film set was found by pure coincidence, as the producers happened to fly over it in a helicopter, landed for a chat with the owner, and made a film set. And we're about to visit it. You realize how awesome this place is right from the beginning of your bus trip when you're greeted by Peter Jackson, the producer of the trilogy and three-time Oscar Award winner. Oh, and step stools are everywhere here, since this is the Hobbit's land. Welcome to Hobbiton, a place with a fantastic atmosphere and home to 44 Hobbit houses. Here, butterflies fly next to apple trees, ducks stroll around minding their business, and just 5 minutes later, you find yourself so soaked in the atmosphere that you start expecting Frodo to appear from one of these houses. Such a strong presence effect is created thanks to Peter Jackson's incredible attention to detail, who was personally involved in the creation of Hobbiton. Here, one can even come across Hobbits classifieds like Hammer Lost or Wheelbarrow for Sale. That's so cool. To be honest, I doubt all these details are noticeable when watching the movie, but the team's attention to detail makes it clear why this film won 17 Oscars. I shouldn't be showing you this without people in the frame, because it makes it hard to comprehend the sizes of everything. It's so tiny, even the chessboard is microscopic. Well, it all comes down to perspective. It may look like an average house at first, but as soon as you compare it to a person, it all looks much more interesting. Everything is miniature. Watering pots, water pumps, and benches, of course. The extent of Peter Jackson's team accuracy goes far beyond common sense. For example, they needed a lush tree for a scene and ended up by recreating one by hand. Take a guess, which one is not real? This one. Yep, you are looking at an artificial tree with 200,000 leaves made, painted and attached by hand. It's just incredible. From afar, I never would thought that it was fake, only after a close look. There is also a Hobbit pub where you can help yourself to free ale, both alcoholic and non-alcoholic. Peter Jackson actually used to brew his beer here, but made it very light, so the local extras from the film would drink it, but not get drunk. It's really hard to keep people on the set for 12 hours when they are wasted. But Peter Jackson is a smart guy. To sum up, it's been a long time since I enjoyed a tour this much. Honestly, Hobbiton touches my heart. I envy if you still haven't watched the trilogy. Don't miss out on this outstanding movie. Alright, we are now somewhere here on the North Island. It will be logical to head south towards the ferry, but instead I'll make a 450-kilometer detour towards Gisborne, located in the easternmost part of New Zealand. Later, you'll see why, but for now, let's drive and explore New Zealand. I've been told many times before this trip that New Zealand boasts the most diverse nature on Earth. Alright, the first top marks go to the ocean and beaches, as they are truly top-notch. And surfing too. Still, the best thing about it is how far my backpack and I are from home. Damn, I still can't believe I'm in New Zealand. Jesus. Hi guys, that's me. Quick interruption. By the way, this is my studio, and as you can see, there is not too much light here because I don't have electricity in Kiev, particularly in my district, and actually you can even hear the sound of generator. This is a generator. That's not mine, but it's my neighbor's. So I just want to tell you, if you want, in these hard times, support Ukraine, you can use links in description. Thank you in advance. And by the way, if you want me to make a separate video about these electricity shortages and how I cope with them, let me know in comment section. Maybe I will do it. And let's get back to the video. Okay, it's 6:47 AM, the sun rises in 10 minutes, and it's time to tell you why I came to this faraway place. Gisborne is the easternmost beachfront of New Zealand, with a population of 30,000 inhabitants. And nothing is outstanding about it apart from one thing. Its locals are the first people in the world to see the sunrise every morning. Wow, this gives me goosebumps. The town of Gisborne is on the 178th meridian, while the international date line, which is the line that demarcates the change of date, is on the 108th meridian, 400 kilometers away from here. To be super precise, Samoans are even closer to that meridian, but due to the Earth's curvature, Gisborne is the first place reached by sun rays. And today, I'll be one of the first people on Earth who'll see the sunrise. At least I'm hoping to be the first. Isn't this remarkable? Remarkable is that I pointed my camera in the wrong direction, but the sunrise is actually behind the hills, obstructing our view. Still, nothing can stop us now. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a fan of high-sounding phrases, but I have traveled so far for this moment alone. And even if someone saw the sunrise earlier that day, which is unlikely, I just didn't want to know about it. I declare myself the first human who saw the sunrise on the 5th of March 2019. Great feeling. Great feeling. There are many beautiful places on Earth. Some aren't accessible by car and some are. But I would rather spare my nerves. New Zealand wins another point here. The roads are excellent, whether the mountain passes or the ocean drives. You enjoy every second of your drive. In this episode, I will compare New Zealand to Iceland a lot. Despite the obvious difference, there are many similarities too. The first thing I noticed was the volcanoes. To show you the local geothermal situation, we came to a place called Tehokovitu Atu. Yep, the locals love sophisticated names. How about this one? Wakarewareva. I won't even try to read the one at the bottom. New Zealand is home to the longest toponym in the world. The name of this hill consists of 92 letters. It's not a joke. In case your eyes are already broken, let me help you out. Here is a word we'll try to pronounce. Think of it as a New Zealand karaoke. Taumata wakatangi, hanga koa autamate, turipu kiki kakapapa mpinga maunga, horonuku kiva ienu, akita natahu. The last bit actually was the easiest. If you managed to pronounce it, congratulations, you must be half Maori already, a New Zealand native. All you need to do is get traditional tattoos, wear appropriate attire, especially for women, and learn haka, the traditional New Zealand dance, which is very easy. All you have to do is stick your tongue out, make inappropriate gestures, and pull some faces. Alright, let's get back to our geothermal stuff. New Zealand, similar to Iceland, boasts both hot springs and geysers. Geyser eruptions, though, are not as frequent as the Icelandic ones, typically erupting only 16-20 times a day. That means you'll have to stick around for 40 to 60 minutes before it goes off. How do geysers work? They resemble a chamber that gets slowly filled with water, and as soon as it fills to the brink, the water starts to boil and something like this happens.
Yes!
The difference between Icelandic and New Zealand geysers is evident. The Icelandic ones are much more explosive and abrupt, like that. While the New Zealand ones are much slower, but last longer. Apart from other typically Icelandic things, New Zealand boasts a couple of unique features. The first is this beautiful lake called Champagne Pool. It's called like that due to the carbon dioxide. Water starts bubbling and resembles champagne. And that's pretty much it. The temperature in this pool is 74 degrees Celsius, so you don't want to drink it. Now let me show you the pinnacle of it. This color is natural with no color correction. This is a natural acid lake with a pH rating of 11. Not 100% acid, but it's really close, so I think ravers would be happy with that. One thing I can tell you is that once you see the geothermal springs, you'll hardly ever be amazed by them again. It put me in awe during my first time in Iceland, but now I'm like, that's nice, but seems like I've already seen it. Another interesting fact about volcanoes in New Zealand. New Zealand is home to the biggest volcano eruption in the past 70,000 years. As you may know, where there is an eruption, there must be a trace. And there is one. Lake Taupo has formed 27,000 years ago as a result of a gigantic volcano eruption. The scale is clearly visible by this caldera, the aftermath of eruption. Nevertheless, active volcanoes still do exist in New Zealand. This time, I won't make you pronounce the original Maori name of this volcano, as most of us know it as Mount Doom. It later became the prototype of the infamous Lord of the Rings volcano. The national park that serves as its home is relatively deserted, but still a very beautiful place where I decided to stay for the night. Just look how beautiful everything was in the morning. As you know, such spots can make me stay forever, but it's time for us to move on. As I go southwards and closer to the ferry, let me tell you about local entertainment. New Zealand is probably one of the world capitals for extreme sports, encompassing everything you could ever imagine: rafting, paragliding, kite surfing. The country is filled with bikes and has one of the world's best mountain bike trails. But I want to tell you about two local things. First are speedboats. Extremely quick and agile motorboats that usually race around narrow rivers at a pace that would make you beg for a dose of Xanax. Okay, you've been bored? Now watch. If you are a less extreme type of person, there is other quite speedy stuff too. The blockcarts. It's like windsurfing but on the ground. The best part about it is that it has no age restrictions.
And you're doing these sports here?
Yeah.
Wow.
We're Lazy Boys Club today. Well, this is the fastest form of sailing you can do. You can get up to 95k.
95 kilometers?
Yeah.
And you did this speed?
Not here. No.
I actually understand why these guys do this. Since the ocean is 20 kilometers away, why bother going that far when you can ride next to your house? Meanwhile, I, not having broken any traffic laws, drove over 1,000 kilometers across New Zealand, reaching the edge of North Island, the city of Wellington. It's the world's most southern capital, but calling it a capital would be a bit of a stretch. It feels very provincial, although it definitely has a specific charm to it.
Since you came around.
In short, Wellington is a city of coffee places with the best flat white, museums of large, hyper-realistic wax sculptures, a city of dogs, and really strong winds.
It's not hard to see when I was feeling down. You saw right through it all.
I had arranged to meet up with some guys who live here in Wellington, but since we didn't have time to meet, I would like to introduce you to Dennis, who I met back in Auckland. Dennis has been living here in New Zealand for quite some time now. I was keen to find out why people move to New Zealand.
В чем кайф Новой Зеландии?
Сочетание и баланс между жизнью и работой. Это основное, зачем сюда едут, на самом деле, большинство тех, кто уже более-менее искушенные люди. Я имею в виду там из Европы, из Америки. Сюда многие люди же едут не только там из развивающихся или там стран третьего мира. Сюда едут именно вот чтобы кайфовать. На работе проводить вот столько времени, сколько нужно для работы. То есть не перерабатывать сильно, не напрягаться и так далее. Они реально в удовольствие пытаются здесь жить. Это вот, на мой взгляд, зачем сюда едут осознанно. Не те, кто там от чего-то убегают, допустим, да, а те, которые реально осознанно выбирают эту страну. вообще страна иммигрантов. То есть здесь все так или иначе понаехали, просто кто-то 300 лет назад, кто-то 100, а кто-то вот недавно.
It's 6:30 in the morning, and I'm at Wellington Ferry Terminal to make my way to South Island.
Have you got a booking with you or anything?
Yeah.
Booked this yourself?
Yeah.
All right. You booked for 8:30 in the evening instead of the morning, but I've swapped you onto this one anyway. So.
Lane number 4. Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Bye.
This is just nuts.
I've been thinking how our tastes in music reflect our everyday lives. Around 10 or 12 years ago, the trend was all for new music.
While we on a boat, let's examine it. On a ship. This ferry has 10 decks, some elevators, a lounge, an observation deck, a store, a kids play area, a movie theater, a couple of cafes and a restaurant. But the most exciting things happen on the open deck and not inside. As we get closer, beautiful sights start coming at us from all directions. I didn't turn off my camera at all as I start filming every single bit. And then, at the most crucial moment, as always, this happens. Damn, the battery is dead. Not a big deal though. Well, this guy's is bigger than mine. Hello, South Island! Welcome to New Zealand South Island. It's bigger than the previous one, it's less populated and apparently it's much more beautiful too. We start off in the Marlborough region, a place packed with vineyards where, according to some experts, the best Sauvignon Blanc in the world is made. I think most of you have heard of the highly popular white wine called Marlborough Sun. This is where they make it. It's March while I'm here in New Zealand, and since it's in the southern hemisphere, it's the beginning of autumn. This is why we can excuse the burnt-out landscapes that serve as a reminder of New Zealand's blazing sun. But a little further down, a completely different New Zealand came upon me. Well, I'm finally seeing that very New Zealand I always saw in pictures. And this is what I saw. Hundreds of kilometers further, the picture changed again, now resembling Iceland a lot. While the roads... well, the roads are just indescribable and deserve an additional episode. By the time I reached the 2000 kilometer mark and realized why Peter Jackson had chosen New Zealand to shoot The Lord of the Rings. This country is one extensive movie set with everything you may ever need, including the funky public that you can bump into in some random places.
Jesus Christ! Oh my God, Jesus Christ!
Turns out these guys are here for a festival, but I have also seen many tourists in New Zealand who were also dressed up for no exact reason. Their car was pretty funny too. There are lots of bright mailboxes in New Zealand that never repeat themselves. It feels like it's a national sport where your neighbors are your main competition in who's got a better one. After driving another several hundred kilometers, I reached the main mountainous region in the country. These are so-called Southern Alps. Tekapo is a glacier lake with a crystal clear water. So clear that its bed can be seen even with a drone. Clear waters are common in New Zealand, which is also home to the clearest lake in the world. This lake is located in the Nelson Lakes National Park and has a visibility of 80 meters. Just think about it, 80 meters. Still, I'm here not only to chill by the lake, as this national park is also called the Night Sky Reserve, which means it's a perfect place to stargaze. There is even a special scale to determine the quality of the night sky. Cities with a lot of light pollution are usually on 8 to 9, while this reserve is 2 or even 1 at times. It is the best place for astrophotography. I love such photography, and that's why I'm here today. I really hope that the conditions tonight will be good enough. There's a rather large local campground by the lake, which is where I'm heading. This place clearly shows that New Zealand is a very popular place among camping tourists. People love bringing their camper vans and just driving around in them. I think it's time to show you my camper too, which comes with a secret inside. Because you always have to travel well prepared. Okay guys, joke aside, but I carried this tent all across Australia and New Zealand, and I can finally make full use of it. I'm a damn pro. The only thing left now is to find a perfect photo spot. There is an observatory on top on the hill with stuff like telescopes. I was planning to take some photos there, but the observatory and all the trails leading to it are locked for the night. Look at the pictures I managed to take around here. This is the sky above Tekapo Lake. What's interesting is that since we are in the southern hemisphere, we can see the Big and the Little Bear constellations. The sky in New Zealand is actually very different from what we see in Europe, with different stars like Sirius and the Southern Cross. While I was filming, it turned out that local fauna also loves to stargaze, like this local opossum that climbed even higher than me, peacefully observing the surroundings. The sunrise above the lake was just astonishing. Just look at this. The next morning the weather was fine, enabling me to show you the observatory that I couldn't get in last night. Can you see those mountains in the background? They are my next destination. Even though there are no very high mountains in New Zealand and all of them are below 4,000 meters, still, the first man to conquer Everest was a New Zealander, which is now a true national pride. This guy is even pictured on the local banknotes. But there's still one tall mountain. It's the tallest one and it's called Mount Cook, also known as Aoraki, and it's sacred, of course. What makes New Zealand unique is the diversity of beautiful sights, which makes it very hard to match for any other country. Everything you may ever want to see as a traveler is accessible within one country, and it really makes New Zealand one of a kind. I couldn't have booked a pretty cheap plane tour over Mount Cook, but I simply didn't have enough time for it. In only 6 days, I have done over 2,500 kilometers, slept for 3 to 4 hours a day, booked hotels during my stops at gas stations, and mainly ate there too. Yep, I'm eating exclusively there because I just don't have time to eat anywhere else. And an occasional Subway makes me genuinely happy. There is simply no time for anything at all, and I didn't bring any buckwheat with me. It's actually forbidden to bring any cereals or nuts into the country. Basically, the place I set for myself turned out to be way too fast, whereas the country requires a different approach. It has to be examined slowly and listened to attentively. Now we can move on, guys. Welcome to an iconic place for extreme sports fans. The A.J. Hackett Bungee Center. It became the first commercial bungee center in the world, running since the 80s. Visitors come here from all over the globe to jump 40 meters down toward the Kawarau River. And today I'll do something that I hesitated to do in 65 episodes of travel show that I took part. I will look my fear right in the eye. The biggest fear of my life. Just fuck this. It's 5:30 in the morning, my last day in New Zealand, and I'm heading toward the main tourist attraction in this country. But we'll see it not from the land, but from the water. Hence, we must quickly change. It looks like this. Listen to a quick briefing, and off we go to the kayaks. The main thing is not to forget my paddle. Thanks. Let's set off.
Okay.
Kayaking is probably the most emotional way to see New Zealand's main attraction. You feel tiny on a boat next to these massive rocks. Plus, you can get close to them, see the waterfalls, and feel the majesty of this place. And if you're fortunate, you'll be able to see more than just waterfalls.
Oh yeah, penguin.
Guys, those are penguins. It was my first time seeing penguins in the natural habitat, not including Australia, where they were just chilling on the beach. Holy crap, a penguin just 10 meters away from me.
They're called the Fiordland crested penguin. You see the little yellow above their head you might have seen. Third smallest penguin in the world. Really rare. So yeah, pretty unique that we actually see them. A lot of times they're swimming too fast for us to actually get a view.
My guide actually isn't too happy with me as I'm talking to a camera most of the time instead of petting, so I'll switch off for a bit to help him to do the work. Kayaks weren't enough for me, so I took a pleasure boat ride to see Milford Sound again. Milford Sound is the most famous fjord in New Zealand. These huge rocks rise over 1 kilometer above water, and absolutely everything next to them seems tiny. Boats, planes and everything else looks small next to these massive rocks, which in turn absolutely dominate the scenery. There are several dozens of waterfalls here, and more so. This place is the most humid not only in New Zealand, but also in the whole world. There is twice as much precipitation here than in the Amazon forest, so it's pure magic that it's not raining right now, which is a daily occurrence. Even though this bay connects to the Tasman Sea, there is so much rain that the first 2 meters of water are fresh water. The depth of Milford Sound reaches 500 meters in some areas, meaning that even large ships can get close to the cliff without any problems. And I got lucky again. These dolphins aren't too active right now because they are probably sleeping. Actually, 3 of them are sleeping, while the 4th one is on the lookout. Even during sleep, one of the dolphin's brain hemispheres remains active, allowing it to swim to the surface for some air. Nevertheless, dolphins aren't the only locals. The best part about this local tour is when the ship comes next to the waterfall. This one is around 150 meters high, and shooting becomes impossible as you get soaking wet within seconds, including the camera and your other stuff. This, though, is the best move ever. Watch this. Yep, you get to taste the waterfall water.
A little bit of the rock.
You think so?
A little bit earthy. Yeah, I think
For
so.
me, it's just a regular water from the waterfall.
Oh, really? from regular water from waterfall, like every day, right?
There are only 4 main fjord regions in the world: Norway, Chile, North America and New Zealand. I guess now you understand why. To me, Milford Sound became the most beautiful place that I have seen and experienced in this country. And now it's time to return to the base. I simply don't know how to convey the scale of it all on the video. It would be way too flat on video. These cliffs are just nuts. They hang over you like your parents when you get an F at school. Honestly, I have nothing but swear words in my head right now, as this is just too immense and huge. You know, I usually do drone shots in such places, but even that's useless here. And technology is useless here. You just won't be able to convey the scale of it, while to have any sort of result you have to go at least 1.5 kilometers up in the air, since these rocks are at least 800 meters high. At first they don't look huge, but they are actually gigantic. Nothing I can do about it, guys. You'll have to trust my words. This is just nuts. I want to remind you that in the description there is a link to a fantastic new habit of gaining knowledge from Blinkist. I wanted you to listen to this place, as it's just unbelievably tranquil. I guess I could have traveled some more 1,000 kilometers across New Zealand, but enough is enough sometimes. New Zealand is a traveler's dream, because it has everything you ever wanted to see in any of the countries around the globe. It's all packed within this tiny country. Beaches, volcanoes, mountains, a ski resort, the ocean, surfing, forest. It has it all. This makes this country incredible, really. But I still had some issues with it. It's an exclusively personal problem of mine, since I underestimated and didn't schedule well, expecting to cover it all within 7 or 8 days. Just like I did in Iceland, where 1 week and around 1500 kilometers were enough. New Zealand, though, is completely different, and the signs on the road describe it the best. Funny thing that I didn't even have time to shoot them, but here's how they look. New Zealand's roads are different. Allow extra time. This is a very precise way to describe New Zealand. You just can't come and drive around all the sites quickly. Everything is scattered, and this country is more for campers and backpackers than those who want to race around some sites by car. It's for backpackers ready to spend more than a day hiking along the plenty of available trails. It's best to come here not for a week or two, but 3 or more. Casually taking your time to enjoy the local nature. And it's tourist, of course. I would say it's one of the most beautiful countries to exist in our planet. Today, once I wrapped up filming, I took up deep breaths and managed to eat in peace and enjoy my time. The lesson I learned here is to allow myself time to relax and enjoy the surroundings. You should do it too, because it's worth it. Come to New Zealand. Hey, helicopter. I should have gone for that heli tour. Guys, I'm off. They are waiting for me, alright? Goodbye.
Sound very Ukrainian.